Hello, this is Brock. I am here to give you a relatively brief rundown on an application to deliver relatively full scale automation. I'm going to do this as fast as possible, and then I will share the document with you after the fact, and you feel free to browse it as much as possible and ask me any questions. Alrighty, so essentially, this is the breakdown. So anywhere where you see a line like this is anywhere where we could allocate resources such as time or money to see returns. This is all one big recipe, and these are all ingredients in the recipe. The more money and time you put into the ingredients, the better the outcome. Now, there's obviously variation on all these, but we'll get to that. Anything that's orange sticky like this here represents a fast, high impact automation project. So good to keep in mind. So, as you can see, it's not very good, but it's roughly the shape of a house, upside down house. So, think of this up here as the foundation, and then this being, the pretty part of the house, whatever you want to call it. But this is a foundation. So, in order to have a good house, you need a good foundation. And the foundation is built on data and how the application is built, essentially, the UI and whatnot. So, all right. So realistically, with this project, it would probably make obviously the most sense to start with the foundation. So that would start with us doing data analysis and working on building an application essentially to house the software. So, all right, we'll start up here. So for data analysis, think of it as employee feedback, general research. So it can be used to help the company grow overall, regardless of automation, provides powerful insights and clear objectives. We can complete. So one example of data collection project would be a call analysis program, which would require us to go and essentially put together a plan for acquiring as many hours of phone calls as we can a day, and then training an AI model to essentially break down those calls and to report back to us with data. So one kind of example of something like this would be like an example. We analyze 10,000 phone calls and find 15% of them are in regards to Michigan nurses wondering about more shifts. Now that we know that, we can now obviously relate that to the rest of the company and execute that, but we can collect this data using AI models and programs that we create. So again, we can pump as much money into this as we want, and the payout could be better than, it could have great payout. Regardless, another option of somewhere we could spend time and money would be in predictions, obviously cost analysis, time analysis on this overall project. Obviously, this is quite far down the road, but that is at the end of the day the end goal. So that you have to keep that in mind when constructing all components of this and doing all. That's mainly what this is all about. Is we have to keep in mind all areas of this when creating each individual aspect in order to come out with the correct end product. So yeah, as you can see, sort of explaining why data analysis would be useful. From there, well, not even from there. We can start wherever. So keep in mind, we can literally start wherever. So like currently, we pretty much start looking at starting here. A post-call journal analysis suggestion bot. That's basically what we're looking at. But in order to utilize that tool, we need to have an application to house and apply that application. How are we going to do that? That's what we got to decide. So it's probably going to end up being a standalone application. Could be something else. We could run all of these tools that you see off a website. You could do it. So we basically just have to come up with a plan. That's what I'm saying. We have to allocate resources, time, whatever, to coming up with a plan. We could do it all in the cloud, run a cloud application through Amazon web-based services. They have like over 100 pre-built programs that we could utilize. I don't know. So something to look into is essentially a large portion of what we need to look into is deciding on an application and how to apply these tools. The core values that apply to all aspects of this project are, these are just tools, no one's getting replaced, and we're only seeking to greatly improve efficiency. So because of that, this needs to all be optional. Nothing we're doing is a forced thing. An example, going back to the journaling bot, is maybe instead of straight just recording it and posting it at the end, after the fact, it just presents the HCP with what it suggests as a journal entry. Essentially, just already doing it. All they have to do is click approve. But if the bot got a couple things wrong, it misheard a time, it misheard a date, which we'd hope we could work out. But regardless, for the early days at least, it just needs to be an optional side thing that it's a tool to be utilized by the employee. It's not taking their job. The user will always be required for quality assurance checking. That's what it's just a very useful tool for our employees. So we have to make it attractive and user friendly. So these are the core values essentially. And then along the way, there will be hyper-specific tasks that probably don't really tie into anything we're directly working on, that it may be worth our time to just execute quickly, something like an Excel spreadsheet auto-calling, just a script that, it takes an Excel spreadsheet and then calls one person. Once it reaches, if let's say it goes to voicemail, let's say I want to call 180 people today, and I know statistically that 70% of them are going to be voicemails, it's going to be the same voicemail, just a bot that calls them, and then if it goes to their voicemail, you have like one of 3 voicemails to choose from. Select the voicemail, it auto reads a voicemail to them, and then you move on. And then there's also, tons and tons of other potential things. And then once we have great data and a great application, then that really has a strong foundation for once we start to execute on the automation aspect of this project, which involves a highly trained large language model / software that acts as an internal chatbot. So that's composed of 3 main kind of divisions, and obviously there's tons and tons of projects that go into each of these. Just small little things like we'd be just essentially training a bot to hand execute on all sorts of tasks. It needs to be able to understand those tasks, and it needs to be able to access the information to execute those tasks. Yeah, I'd love to get into it more, but yeah, definitely hit me with any questions, and I'm gonna send this to you so you guys can look over it. And yeah, thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day.